Welcome back to Girl Out of Order. You are rejoining me, hopefully not for the first time, but if so, welcome. But you are rejoining me for our Who Are You Really series. So far, this has been my favorite series. And we did a series called My V Does Not Define Me, which was super fun and a little bit cheeky, but super deep too. And now we have moved into the Who Are You Really series, which is all about identity. And at Girl Out of Order, my passion is to help us truly understand and embrace who we are at our core and design compelling, gorgeous lives from that knowing of our true identity. And so the Who Are You Really series has been extraordinary. And we are now on part 5. But before we dive in, I want to do a quick recap of where we've been in the series before we dive into what I believe is probably the meatiest and frankly, my favorite part of this series. So where were we in the first phase? Well, the first phase, and I'm not sure I ever actually called it this, so I want to clarify. The first phase was parts 1 through 3, and it was kind of an awakening, right? It was like, oh, there's an identity process that I need to sort of investigate. There's like, who am I? Wow, that's an awakening, because when I say awakening, the reason I use that term is because so often women sleepwalk through our lives, allowing ourselves to be identified and defined by other people, other situations, and other responsibilities. We are not intentional about designing our identities, knowing who we are at our core, and then creating lives from that knowing. Because sisters, guess what? You get to create and design your gorgeous life. That is your privilege and that is your responsibility. So parts 1 through 3 were an awakening. And I am still fighting off this cold, so my apologies for an occasional cough, but I think it might happen, especially when I get excited. And I am so excited to review our parts 1 through 3, our awakening piece of the Who Are You Really series. In part 1, we talked about measurement. What gets measured has the best chance to grow, but what doesn't get measured does not grow. And so we talked about the wheel of life. We looked at all the different areas of our lives, our time, our mission / career, our relationships, our health, our finances, and we gauged where we are at. If we're being honest and looking at our lives, where are we in these areas? And the reason that Tony Robbins has called it a wheel of life is because it should be balanced, right? If you have one of your wheels on your car that is flat or flatter than the others, is that car going to run at its optimal performance? Heck no, no freaking way is that going to happen. In fact, that car is going to break down because it's going to put pressure on these other areas and it's going to cause wear and tear where it simply shouldn't be. So we talked about measuring our wheel of life. Did you do that exercise? If not, go back to that episode about measurement. Give yourself this gift of doing the exercise. Sisters, I promise you, it won't take you more than 5, maybe 10 minutes if you're like me and you kind of overthink it a little bit and get in your head about picking a number. Just go with your gut. That's as much information for me as it is for you. Because remember, at Girl Out of Order, we are all about come along with me. And so I'm right there with you in the process, sister, going, oh, girl, I'm a 6, but I could be a 7. Some days I'm an 8. No. What does your gut tell you? Measure it. For me, It was extremely informative. I've done the Wheel of Life. I don't even know how many times. I can't count. But every time I do it, there are tweaks, there are revelations, there are ahas, and importantly, there are reminders of where I need to be putting my focus so that I can grow into a more balanced, congruent woman. That's what your goals should be. So get measuring, sisters. That was part 1 in the awakening portion of our series. Part 2 was called The Right Kind of BS. All right. Belief systems, not bullshit. Although, if you really were honest about what kind of disempowering beliefs you are allowing to either run in the background of your brain, sometimes in the foreground, that is bullshit. That is BS, okay? But you get to choose the right kind of BS. So what do I mean by the right kind? The kind of belief systems that empower you, that fuel you, that give you the most gorgeous perspective. This is a challenge for this woman that is talking in your ears right now. I have struggled since I was a little girl with being a bit curmudgeon-y, a bit negative, a bit outraged. And if you know me, you might be rolling your eyes and be like, oh, well, really? Like, okay, it's true. It is going to be a challenge for me on a daily basis to set my mind right, create belief systems that fuel me. Right now, I'm in the middle of taking Tony Robbins' 6-day Date with Destiny. Oh, you can't call it a seminar. It's a marathon, but it has got me in such an incredible state. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but I can feel the difference in my core. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you are seeing glittery eyeshadow and fun lipstick and a bright countenance because I am digging into these belief systems that are holding me back. So, what empowering beliefs can you choose for your gorgeous life? And if you're being honest, what disempowering beliefs are running in your background, are creating the paradigm, the glasses, the lenses through which you show up in life? Is that I'm never going to be enough. I will never measure up. For me, it's like, I don't want to feel like a failure. I'm an imposter. Everybody's going to find out that I am not all I say I am. How is that, sisters, going to create a gorgeous life? Promise you, it's not. And these are things I'm battling alongside you. I am in the trenches with you, sister. So let's talk about developing the right kind of BS, the best kind of belief system. That life is always happening for me, that I can experience the love, grace, and connection that my Creator has for my beautiful life. I'm getting off track a little bit because that's one of my favorite episodes as well. So go back and listen to that. There are exercises that you can do. Put pen to paper. Get the pen out, sisters. Write it. What you write, you invite into your life. So if you are writing out these positive beliefs, even if you don't feel them yet, you are going to be inviting, sending out messages to the universe, to God, that this is what you believe about yourself. Remember, the only thing you can control in this world is what goes on between your ears. And in the episode, we talked about how Holocaust survivors were able to maintain a beautiful state in the most horrific and unimaginable circumstances. When you look at your life, you can choose a beautiful state, and it starts with the right kind of belief systems. That was episode 2. Now, episode 3, we talked about the power of decisions. Because once you get the right kind of belief systems and you are measuring your life, now it's time to move, sisters. We talked about if you want to grow, you have to go, to put your boots on and start marching towards living that gorgeous life that you deserve, that you are designing for yourself. It takes action. So you've got to decide. We talked about deciding committing and resolving. It's not enough to just decide. You need to commit to that decision, and then you need to resolve to live it out. This is as much for me as it is for you, because it is a struggle, especially when you're building those new muscles. But don't look at it. I'm going to change that language right there. I'm going to catch myself. It's not a struggle. It's a challenge. Challenge accepted, sisters. I'm going to decide, commit, and resolve to take action on my new identity. And then we switched into what is known and what I'm calling the creation phase of your identity. So now that you are awakened to needing to measure, to needing to be mindful about the belief systems you have and the requirement to take action and make decisions, now we're moving into the really exciting creation phase of your identity. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for me, because as I teach this, as I share this, I am continuing to grow and change and evolve. And one of my favorite words, emerge. I am learning to emerge more as I share this with you. So episode 4, it got me so emotional. It gets me every time. We talked about the power of modeling and the mirror and how they go together. We talked about looking out for the people that you admire, your mentors, your role models, the people you look up to. It can be your children. It was for me, all 4 of my daughters, my 101-year-old great-grandmother, Siri Lindley, Tony Robbins, Carissa Kuchis, people that I not only follow, but people I admire, people that are going where I know I want to go and living lives that I deeply admire. Not for comparison, because comparison kills, but for inspiration. And then if you did the exercises, good for you, sisters. If you didn't, please, I'm begging you, because I love you, go back and do this exercise where you write out all of the characteristics. Give yourself 10 minutes. Can you give yourself a 10-minute gift? Set a timer for 10 minutes and write out all of the characteristics that you admire in these people that I know you wrote down. Write down 3, 5, 10, whatever comes to your mind. I probably wrote, I don't know, 10 or 15 different people that I admire, that I consider mentors or role models. And then I wrote out all of these different characteristics and I shared them on that podcast. And then I reminded you, sister, that at the top of that list goes your name. Because what we see in the people we admire, what stands out to us, is what is actually already inside you now. You just need to access it. That was part 4. So now that I've set the stage, we are on to part 5, the other part in our creation portion of the Who Are You Really series. Now, I've probably said this a number of times, so forgive me, but this one is my favorite. And here's why. We are talking today about the forces that create your identity. This is a workhorse kind of day, because what we're going to learn today are the tools that you need to create your identity. And we need to do this work. We need to build these muscles, because think about this. Is your identity now, as you sit here today, whatever age you are, the same as it was when you were 10, 12, 15, 20? Is it? My guess is your identity has evolved over the years. And maybe, sister, you were like me, and along the way, you lost sight of Christine or Tammy or Susan or Tiffany. You don't even know who you are anymore. And that's why you're here. Because you know that there is a greater level of satisfaction and joy for your one gorgeous life. So today we are going to be talking about the forces that create your identity. I'm going to be giving you tools that actually help you implement your identity, because we can call on our identity in an instant. In an instant. I'm not snapping very loud. Let me try this again. There. Oh, I'm better with my left hand than my right hand. In an instant, you can call on this new identity. It's not fake. It's not woo-woo or rah-rah. This is real, solid, tangible identity work. Are you ready to dive in to the forces of identity creation? I know you are, and I am so excited. If you can see me on YouTube, my eyes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because this is the work that I am in the midst of doing for myself. I have been learning this work for the last 2+ years, and it's just fresh for me now. And I'm learning more and more how to get it into my body and live it out on a daily basis so I can take my life to the next level. And I want that for you. Before we dive into our empowered, I want to say one last thing about the forces that create our identity. You're going to learn that there are certain forces that shape who you are, and you're going to learn how to harness the power of those forces. You're going to learn that there is actually an exact formula to help you tap into that identity that most aligns with you and unleashes the life you absolutely deserve to live. Okay, so what are our empowereds for the week? They come from the amazing, grace-filled, wise Sage Robbins, the wife of the great man, Tony Robbins. She's his secret weapon. She's his partner. She is his muse, and she's mine too. She's not my partner, but she is my muse. So she says, life is ever evolving. We must, as human beings, adapt and evolve ourselves beyond our own limiting structures and beliefs to become all we have more to give. Let me say that one more time. Life is ever evolving. We must, as human beings, adapt and evolve ourselves beyond our own limiting structures and beliefs to become our fullest potential so that we have more to give. That's a lot to unpack, but you will see as we go through this podcast today that this is Identity Creation 101. So let's dive in. What is identity creation? What are we actually talking about? This is a journey back to you, sisters, back to your truest, most beautiful self. The Who Are You Really series is a journey back to you, but it's a process. That's the word journey. The word journey isn't like you just transform yourself and you're right where you want to go. This series is part of the journey, and each episode that we are recording and giving to you, we are giving you tangible tools that I hope you will give yourself the gift to apply so you can expand your identity, because that's how you're going to live the most compelling, fulfilling, gorgeous life possible. And that is the juice of life. That's what you want. That's what I know I want. So let's talk about first, before we dive into the tools, I want to make you aware of what it is costing you to have a limited identity, because there's a cost to living that way. Technology. I don't know if you heard that Zoom call come in, but there's a cost for technology, right? Every once in a while, even as we're recording, there's little hiccups. So thank you for your patience and your grace. I'm going to dive right back into the cost. All right. So what we're talking about is there's a cost to living a life of limited identity. So what you need to understand is that if you're going to continue on in this life in a limited capacity as far as your identity, you're going to think about it here's an example. This is what I think of. I'm a bright light kind of gal. My husband doesn't mind dim lights, but if there's a light in the room that's dim, I am turning that sucker up. I am not into dimmer switches. I love bright lights. And so like my computer, I use Macintosh, and every time I unplug my computer from the charger or I open it up, it's always set on a dimmer switch. Now I understand intellectually that dimmer switch is there to save power, but I like it bright. So when you're living a life of limited identity, it's like you're on a dimmer switch. You are still living a life. There is some fulfillment, but unlike what kind of light you like, don't you want a life that is bright and full powered and gorgeous energy? That's what we're talking about. And when you have a limited identity, what you're living is a life that is dimmed down, a life where you're playing small, a life when you're chiseling your edges, softening your desires, shrinking back. Can anybody relate to this? I work with so many women, and so I already know that that's a rhetorical question. But how does this land for you? For you, sister, how do you feel you are living into your identity? Are you living a limited identity? It's a common struggle for women everywhere. There are 3 different ways you can know that you're living a limited identity. You are feeling constricted or limited. Okay, think about that visual of feeling constricted. Now I think about the metaphor. Well, it's metaphor for this, of the contortionists at the circus and how they like somehow unnaturally put themselves in boxes. And I know it's for entertainment circumstances, and it's very entertaining for some. For me, it turns my stomach, but it turns my stomach more when I see women contorting themselves in unnatural ways to fit into an identity that isn't fully them. So ask yourself, are there ways in your life you feel constricted, restricted? Like you're unnaturally putting yourself in a box? That's one way you know you're living an identity, a limited identity. And that is there's a cost to that. It's pain, it's disappointment, it's regret, it's shame. Might be all of those. Another way that you know you're living a limited identity is that you are feeling divided or separated. I am, whatever you attach I am to becomes your identity. So if you're saying, I am dumb, I am a fool, I am an imposter, I am limited, I am small, I am not capable. Are you feeling divided from what you really want or what you really know is for you? There's a cost to that. That hurts your soul. It robs the world of what only you, sister, can give. And that is the cost of a limited identity. And then lastly, feeling attached. What do I mean by that? You feel attached to a job title or how things have to look, feel, or be. For me, I am an attorney. I feel attached to that identity, even though it doesn't give me the freedom in my soul to live fully into who I know I am. And it's a descriptor of what I do, but it's not really who I am. So what are you attaching yourself to? Do you feel attached to things that aren't truly aligned with you? If so, you are living in a limited identity, and there's a cost to that, because where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you are focused on being attached to the way you think things should be, Your energy is going to be focused on trying to make it happen that way when life is happening for you over here. If you're attached to a job title, but you really know that it's not truly fulfilling you, but you're so beholden to it, you're ripping it, white knuckling it, you're missing out on the impact and fulfillment you could have if you chase the dreams that God has placed on your heart, and you know it, but you're holding tight to what you're attached to. And there is a deep and sometimes long-lasting cost to that. Sisters, listen up. Once you have a limited identity, the cost is that everything within you begins to build walls. My limiting identity was, I am a warrior. And that sounds beautiful, but my was so holding fast to being a warrior, a survivor, that I was living so fully into this against mentality with the world that I built higher and higher and higher walls around my softness, around my femininity, around my open-heartedness. And the harsh way I showed up pushed people away when all I wanted and desired in this world was to pull them towards me. So now what? We're into solutions at Girl Out of Order. Now that we understand not only that how we can identify a limited identity, but what it costs us, you have got to be ready to change this shit around. So we are going to do that now. In order to implement the tools I'm going to give you to change your identity, I want to set the stage by asking you some identity questions for you to consider. And yes, this is another writing assignment because at Girl Out of Order, we love to journal. So say it with me. I love journaling and journaling loves me. Even if you don't feel it, say it until you do. And then get out those journals, crack them open. I want to see those pens moving in my mind. Okay, I'm picturing all of you beautiful souls getting out your pens and writing like crazy. Okay, because remember what I said earlier, what we write, we invite. So I'm going to go through a series of questions, share my answers to them, and then I want you to answer them for yourself. Number one, what have you identified with? Okay, I already said for me, what I have identified with was lawyer, mom, warrior, survivor, wife, badass, phoenix who will always rise. You can see the beauty in a lot of those things. These don't have to all be negative. Sisters, these can be very positive things, but I'm just inviting you to write it out so you can be seeing on the paper what you have identified with. And then you can ask yourself, is it still serving you? Is it still congruent with your current identity? Okay. Now, the next question is how you have been living a match for how you truly feel. How you have been living a match for how you truly feel. When I looked at that list, it was a resounding no. I realized when I saw that list that I was still clinging to security. And that clinging to security continues to keep me playing small, being fearful of taking chances and stepping into my dreams and vision and taking a chance on those dreams, right? So ask that question of yourself and write down that answer. The next question is, have I been my truest self? Sisters, have you been your truest self? For me, when I answered that question, I was honest. In some areas, absolutely a resounding yes, especially with the last 2 years of work I've been doing. Oh my gosh, there are so many ways I have uncovered my truest self, and I am really enjoying getting to know her because this new and improved Christine, she's freaking awesome. I love her vibrancy. I love the way she's stepping into her feminine and she's learning how to dance with life instead of constantly be pushing, pushing, pushing. So ask that question of yourself. Have you been your truest self? Be honest, be gentle, but be real. Number 4, what do you want more of so that you can be the most authentic you? What do you want more of? For me, I want more freedom. I want more freedom from acrimony, which comes with being a lawyer. I want more financial freedom. I want the ability to master my time. I want to live more congruently. So I want more of that. And when I get more of that, I know that I'm going to be living my most authentic life. Number 5, what do you not want any more of so that you can be authentic? This is where you write down your not to-do list, things that you want to stop doing. For me, I feel like I've made a lot of progress in this area. But I don't want to just be focused on practicing law anymore. To be my most authentic self, to be living my most authentic, gorgeous life, I need to be doing more of what I'm doing right here with you, sisters. I also need to be leaning more into love. I need to be reconnecting more with my faith. I need to stop focusing on what I don't have and start focusing on what I do have. I need to stop looking for what's wrong and put all my energy towards what's right, what I can appreciate, what the blessing is. Next question, what are the current barriers in your identity to your truest self? What are the current barriers in your identity, sisters, to you reaching your truest self? For me, it's the thirst for significance. It's also the thirst for connection and love. When I say thirst, notice there's nothing wrong with wanting to be significant, nothing wrong with wanting love and connection. But when it becomes a thirst and a hunger and you're like running after it so hard, it can overtake you and prevent you from seeing the pieces of your beautiful identity that you need to magnify more of. For me, it was also money responsibilities was weighing me down and go back to that wheel of life in areas where I need to improve. And then lastly, what identities of you do you find constricting that you might want to remove? What identities? For me, it was lawyer. I need to really evaluate whether or not this is for me long term because it's constricting me. It's keeping me tight. That warrior badass is keeping me in this kind of fight mode. What is it for you, sisters? What do you need to consider removing as far as identity from your lives so you can take your life to the next level? Take some time and write these questions out. Pause this podcast. Give yourself this gift before we dive into the tools that you're going to take to identify your true self. I want to give you these forces of identity creation. And what is also true, to get the most out of this, you need to answer these questions so that you can set the stage for what's next. Okay, are you ready? Here comes the tools. I'm so excited to share these with you because this tool that I'm going to share, I'm going to say this, these, whatever, however you look at it. This tool has 5 steps. 5 is my magic number. I love 5. Life should be lived in groups of 5, in my opinion. I don't know why that's relevant, but I just felt like sharing it with you. But Tony Robbins has created this tool called the 5 to Thrive. And embedded in this tool is what we're going to walk through called the triad. And the triad, I am still, after 2 years, learning more and more about it and pulling things out of the triad teaching that is helping me live into my truest identity. Because how fast can we shift our identity? In an instant. You can call on your identity that you are creating when you slip back into the old patterns and the old habits and the old ways. So let's dive into this 5 to Thrive so that you can have this tool to give you the forces you need to create your identity. because you get to create this. This isn't something you don't have to go on an archaeological dig, sisters. You don't have to get out your little toothbrush and just very gradually like dust the stuff away to find what's in there. Although that might be part of your process, you actually get to create your identity as well. You get to have control over how you show up in this world. There are pieces of you that you are pulling out and finding your way back to that are amazing. And there are parts of you that you don't even know exist that you get to create, identify, and magnify. And this tool called the triad is one of the single most powerful tools that you will use for identity creation. Now, triad in that word is 3, and I said 5 to thrive. So you might be wondering why she's saying 3 when she said 5. Well, the triad is the first 3 pieces of the 5 to thrive. Okay, so I'm going to teach you about the triad, and in your show notes, there's going to be a link to Tony Robbins' teaching of the triad and a visual of what the triad looks like. I'm even going to share with you vulnerability here, vulnerability alert. I'm going to share with you my own triad, and I've actually renamed myself to get that triad into my body and soul. And my name for myself, and some people might think this is a little weird, you can roll your eyes. Frankly, it took me 2 years of doing Unleash Her Power Within before I actually named myself. And I thought it was a little weird and woo-woo, so I was kind of like, I roll. You can eye roll if you want, or I would invite you to give it a try. Try it on for size, because how's Christine working out for you? How's Tammy working out for you? How's Jackie working out for you? There's probably some things in your identity that are attached to your name that maybe aren't serving you, because remember, we're here to sort of unpack our limited identity. So sometimes renaming yourself can make a shift in your mental focus, and you can call on her in an instant. For me, originally, mine was Felicity Fierce, and you'll find out as you get to know me more, I love alliteration. So I was trying to channel some femininity by choosing the word Felicity, the name Felicity, but I still held on to Fierce because I couldn't let go of the warrior, because I'm like, oh, she's so embedded in me. She keeps me safe. She keeps me strong. And that's still beautiful. And for a time, that served me. But now I'm in a new phase of my identity creation where I am feeling so much more feminine, and I am finding that my strength is more of an undercurrent, a golden thread that runs throughout my feminine personality. So my new identity, I've named her Aurora Flame. Okay, I love the Aurora Borealis. It's ethereal and mysterious and beautiful. And I had to get a little of that strength and that fire. So I chose the word flame, Aurora Flame. That's how I've named this identity. If naming doesn't land with you right now, put it to the side, set it on the shelf, come back to it later. I don't want to distract from the triad. But if you feel like naming your new identity, try it on for size. Write that in the middle of a triangle that you're going to draw on your paper. Okay? Write whatever name that is. For me, it's Aurora Flame. We want to get you into a state of this identity. So for me, when I stand as Aurora Flame, my shoulders are back, hands on my hip, my head kind of cocked to this side. I got a little sassy look on my face, a smile, because I'm putting myself in a state. And that's the first step in the 5 to thrive. Physiology first. I know that we've talked about this so many times throughout my podcast about what you do in your body sets the stage for what you do in your mind and your emotions. So how do you stand when you are in an empowered state? Stand up out of your seat, put your shoulders back, put your head up, put a smile on your face. You can change your physiology in an instant. And that is the first step in the 5 to thrive, physiology first, because when you change the way you move your body, everything shifts. This is something I am learning to integrate more and more in my life. This is a challenge, and I welcome your accountability. Christine, how's your physiology? How are you standing? Do you need to change your state? Do you need to get up and move? Do you need to dance? Do you need to pump your fist? What is it for you, sister? that is going to allow you to access this new identity that you are creation. This is about the forces of identity creation, not identity uncovering. So have some fun with this. Play with this. Do you stand like Superwoman? Do you stand like a macho woman? Do you stand like somebody who's taking over the WWE or whatever the heck it is? Do you stand like, I don't know, fill in the blank, what works for you? But get up out of your seat. Don't be slouched. Be mindful of how you are showing up physically. When I walk into a courtroom, I have my head up. I'm smiling. I'm engaging. I'm reaching my hand out and shaking people's hands. I'm acknowledging people, giving people the old head nod. How we use our body affects our identity. So what's number one? Physiology first. Now, number two, where focus goes, energy flows. The second piece of the 5 to Thrive, and it's on the left-hand side of your triangle that I know you drew on a piece of paper. It is focus. Where are you putting your focus? You can only control what goes on in your mind. So where are you choosing? Nobody can take away your power of focus, sisters. Focus equals feeling. If you focus on the fact that life is a bitch, guess what life's going to be for you? That's right. It's going to be a bitch. If you focus on life is so unfair, you're going to see unfair everywhere. But the reticular activating system means when you focus on something, you see it everywhere. So close your eyes and picture everything that is brown. Okay. Actually, I kind of messed that up. Open your eyes. Look around your room and notice everything that's brown. Close your eyes. Think back to everything you saw that was brown. Now open up your eyes and find everything that is red. It's a lot harder. So like when you buy a blue car, you maybe didn't see blue cars around. And I bought a particular blue car, Kona Hyundai. Love that car. Sold it to my daughter. I still miss her. When I'm out and about, I never saw blue Konas, but when I bought one, guess what I saw everywhere? Blue freaking Konas. They're everywhere. Same thing happened when we bought an orange Ford Escape. Start seeing them everywhere. I had never noticed them before. So what would happen if you chose to focus on life is a blessing? This is a blessing. This is beautiful. What can I learn? Guess what you're going to start finding more of? This all filters into this identity. You want to be a person who is looking for the good. You want to be that person who walks into a store, or for me, when I walk into the courthouse and I interact with the bailiffs, they instantly see me and start smiling. Good morning, counselor. How are you today? Well, the guy before them, they're like, morning, counselor. But when they see me, they know I bring the energy. Because I focus on the good, and I almost always say something like, I woke up on the right side of the ground today. Life's a blessing. I had a great night's sleep. Hey, it's not snowing that hard. And they laugh and they're like, oh, counselor, we love seeing you, because you know what? I focus on what is beautiful, and I don't do this perfectly. Lord knows it. I said earlier, this is always a challenging area for me, because I do tend, it's a habit that I'm working on breaking, focusing on what's wrong, but I have a choice to focus on what's right. So the second piece of 5 to Thrive is, what are you focusing on? That's going to dictate what you feel. So there are 3 decisions that shape your life with regards to focus. And I'm just going to do a little tiny bit on this. Okay. First and foremost, what are you choosing to focus on? We talked about that. That puts you back in control. Ooh, did you hear that? What you focus on puts you back in control. If life is always happening for you, you get to be in control of what you focus on. Nobody can take that away from you. We talked about that. Number 2, decide what something means to you. So when you focus on what something is, decide what it means to you. Engage it, dance with it, play with it. If you have a flat tire, what does that mean to you? Is this an invitation to slow down? Is this an invitation to make a recommitment to have more savings? What does it mean to you? This is all in the focus piece. And then lastly, what am I going to do about it? Back to the example of having a flat tire. Am I going to stomp my feet and cry and scream and snap at my children because I have a freaking flat tire and everything's going to hell in a handbasket? No. Although I would venture to say I've done that. I'm sure a lot of you have. You can choose in that moment to get resourceful. You could choose in that moment to reassure your child that you will get her where she needs to go at just the right time. You can choose to speak loving, gentle words to yourself about maybe I haven't gotten my savings to where it needs to be yet. But the operative word is yet. And this is a great reminder. I'm going to embrace that. And I'm going to call around to find the best price for the tire. I know it's not a perfect example, but hopefully it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. So that's the second piece of the 5 to thrive. Where are you going to put your focus? The third piece of the triad and the third piece of the 5 to thrive is language/meaning. Language and meaning. I know I've talked about this a lot on several podcasts, but your transformational vocabulary sets the temperature for your life. The words you use determine your attitude. How you describe something is either a gift or a curse. If you say, this freaking sucks, it's going to suck. Or you can say, well, this is interesting. Or, wow, this is a challenge. I've been crewing for Date with Destiny. It's the first time I've ever crewed for a Tony Robbins event. And our first day was wonderful. Oh, wonderful. What an opportunity to grow. I was near tears off and on all day because I'm new at this. I was worried I wasn't doing it right. I was sweating. I was struggling because I wasn't connecting. And I had to make a decision of how I was going to describe that day to myself. I described that to myself once I got past a little pity party, and I gave myself 90 seconds, or maybe there was 90 minutes. I'm not going to lie. It was not an easy day. But I decided to describe it to myself like this was a really big challenge. I am being stretched. I am really growing. Even though this isn't what I expected or what I wanted, this is exactly what I need. And I'm going to choose to focus on what I can do better and how I can grow. Do you see the difference? Words create worlds. The way you describe anything gives it its meaning. If you say life is so hard or I'm so tired, you're giving yourself a tired meaning for your day or a hard meaning for your day. It doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge that things are hard. You don't acknowledge that you're tired, but you don't stay there and you don't continually say that. Do you know people that when you say hello to them, you're like, well, living the dream, but they're really sarcastic and they use words like, well, this fucking sucks. Well, this is hard. Life's hard. It's challenging. Ugh, this sucks. I can't wait to get out of this. Fill in the blank. I'm sure you know people like that. Maybe the person you look at in the mirror, sister, maybe, possibly, could be, maybe. Okay, let's be honest. Let's be kind to ourselves, but let's be honest. What words are you using? Emotion, meaning, which comes from their words. I'm really jumbling this up. Thanks for your grace. Let me start over. Language creates meaning. Meaning creates emotion. And emotion is life. What kind of life are you creating? What kind of identity are you creating? This is the triad. Physiology first. Focus equals feeling. And language and meaning. Physiology, focus, language. That's the triad. So for Aurora Flame, told you how she stands. Aurora Flame, she puts her focus on what is right. She puts her focus on how she can serve. She puts her focus on what is beautiful. She puts her focus on what does God have for me in this beautiful moment. That's how she lives her life. And then she uses language like wonderful, oh, wonderful, when the old person would be like, this effing sucks. She uses language like, This is a blessing. I can find the blessing in this. What is the blessing in this? She uses language like, I know God has a purpose and a plan, and I am going to be open to receiving that. That is Aurora Flame. That's how she shows up her best self. So those are the first 3 steps in the 5 to Thrive, the triad. So what's step 4? And we're almost done. So hang in there with me. What's step 4? Step 4 is now you create a compelling future. That's right. Now that you have this triad, this empowering triad where you stand strong, you focus on what's beautiful and you describe it in empowering terms, now you get to design a compelling future. You don't want to sleepwalk through life, sister. That is not living. What is living is creating a compelling future, writing down who you are, creating a life masterpiece from this empowering triad, how you show up in this world. Now, once you do that, once you create that triad, and I do pray you create this triad, write it out, put it where you can see her so you can be reminded of who she is. Then you start designing your new compelling future. You get to create a life masterpiece. And I just thought of this now kind of on the fly, but I've created a life masterpiece. And what I want to do is share that link to that in our show notes. And it's pretty vulnerable. So give me lots of grace. It's always ever evolving. I'm just going to share a part of it with you so that you can get a visual of what it's like to create a life masterpiece and create a compelling future. It's about, again, what we talked about, putting your work boots on and doing the work to design that compelling future. That means getting intentional about writing out how you want your different areas of your life to be, and then living into it, which is the 5th step on the 5 to Thrive. Identity is everywhere, and we live out what we believe we are. So you do that 4th step and you design that compelling future. You cast a vision. I mean, come on, it's December. Don't tell me you're not thinking about New Year's resolutions. We don't want to do New Year's resolutions here. We want to create a life masterpiece from an empowering triad. And then we want to, on that 5th step, live what we know we are. Live who you knew or you know that you are. I know this is a fire hose of information, but I hope you did the work. If you didn't, go back and do it. I'm going to beat this drum till the end of my days, because you don't grow if you don't go. You don't get it if you don't do it. So create your empowering triad and then take the time to write out your life masterpiece, casting a vision, manifesting this beautiful life that Aurora Flame for me is creating, that she is living into. I really appreciate you joining me for this 5th installment on our Who Are You Really series. Our next chapter is about creating manifestos, and that's going to come from this episode. So buckle up, be prepared for the next episode by doing the work in this one. And thank you for sharing Girl Out of Order wherever you can, with whomever you can. Let's grow a tribe of Girls Out of Order, and make sure you join our online Facebook community, because we need in there what only you can give. We're in this together, sisters. I love you, and I cannot wait to see you next time.